Just try wrapping your head around this number. This is a $100 trillion banknote. Real paper, real government backing, real ink. Yet, at the absolute peak of this economic crisis, handing this completely absurd piece of paper to a cashier wouldn't even buy you a single loaf of bread.
You know, what's totally wild about this story is that this country didn't collapse the way nations typically fall in the history books. No devastating war, no foreign invasion, no massive natural famine. It fell because of a catastrophic chain reaction triggered by one fateful policy decision.
Part 1. The Breadbasket of Africa, Prosperity and Inequality in the 1980s and 90s. To really grasp the fall, you gotta see the peak. Back in those decades, Zimbabwe wasn't just surviving, it was an absolute powerhouse, literally feeding its neighboring nations. Agriculture was the undisputed engine here. World-class tobacco and maize farming alone brought in a staggering 50% of the country's foreign currency. Half of the nation's international economic lifeblood came straight from the soil.
But hiding right beneath that economic success was a stark reality and an unresolved colonial wound. On one side, you had just 4,400 white farmers controlling 42% of the absolute best, most arable land in the country. On the flip side, millions of displaced black families pushed onto overcrowded, dry, totally unforgiving soil.
And listen, this staggering disparity wasn't just some abstract political talking point. For millions of displaced citizens, this was a deeply personal, generational demand for justice that had been boiling for decades. The pressure cooker was on high, and the status quo was simply unsustainable. It was a spark just waiting to happen.
Which brings us to Part 2. The engine seizes, the 2000 fast-track land seizures.
In the year 2000, feeling the heat of that boiling political pressure, President Robert Mugabe launched a fast-track land reform program. The government moved incredibly fast and aggressively, forcing out over 4,000 white farmers. And we're talking overnight, often violently. The physical land changed hands almost instantly. But here's where the government made a fatal miscalculation about what actually gives a farm its value.
They assumed farming was just, dirt and tractors, completely forgetting the invisible machine running the whole show. Step 1, the land gets seized. Step 2, without land titles, international trust and bank credit instantly freeze up. Poof, gone. Step 3, 50 years of hands-on expertise, veterinary systems, and supply chains vanish in a week. Which leads us to Step 4, the economy comes to a dead, grinding halt. You can seize a farm in an afternoon, but you cannot seize a half-century of institutional knowledge.
Part 3. The Hyperinflation Nightmare, a monetary graveyard.
Okay, with the agricultural engine completely dead and exports collapsing, the government was suddenly starved of foreign currency. So they pulled the easiest, most dangerous lever any government has. They turned on the printing presses. And man, they didn't just print a little. By November 2008, the country hit an incomprehensible inflation rate of 79.6 billion%. Not in a decade, not in a year. 79.6 billion% in a single month. The printing presses were running so fast, the money became literally meaningless.
To put that billion% number into human terms, consider the daily reality. Prices were doubling every 24 hours. A loaf of bread that cost $1 on Monday was $2 on Tuesday, $4 on Wednesday, $8 on Thursday. The math completely detached from reality, which meant a family's entire life savings could and did vanish in a single afternoon.
Desperate to stop the bleeding, the government actually started arresting store owners for raising their prices to match the inflation. So what did the shopkeepers do? They simply stopped stocking their shelves. Supermarkets turned into these vast, eerie rows of empty metal. Eventually, the situation got so utterly toxic that the country had no choice but to completely abandon its own currency. Part 4. The Silent Return. Modern joint ventures, and the side door truce.
Jump ahead a few decades. The dust is starting to settle, and the nation finds itself facing an incredibly uncomfortable truth. To fix the economic damage, they desperately need the very expertise they violently forced out years prior. So they've started this quiet, side door approach. Through government-approved joint ventures, white farmers are actually returning, but crucially, as partners, not as owners. And economically, it's working. Tobacco exports are hitting record highs again. But it's an unfinished, fragile truce. The country remains saddled with billions in debt, and current laws still strictly block these returning partners from legally owning the land they're sweating to rebuild.
If this explainer proves anything, it's one brutal, undeniable law of economics.
When a government shows the world, the banks, and its own people that it can take absolutely everything away overnight, it takes generations to earn that systemic trust back. Trust is the actual currency of a functioning economy, and once it's burned to the ground, it doesn't just regrow in a single season. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Looking at these new joint ventures and the lingering laws blocking ownership, what do you think it actually takes to heal a nation's broken trust? Is this fragile modern truce enough to truly recover? Or is it just a temporary patch on a wound that never really closed? The domino effect of a single policy is something we all need to understand. Thanks for hanging out with us for this explainer, and we'll catch you in the next one.